Unfortunately for me, Elena took away probably about half of my speech. So I have to come up with new things. But as she said, I left City in 1967 and went to work for IBM. And by the way, 1967 was a great year to graduate. There were a lot of jobs available. And I not only had an office from IBM, I had an office from Google and numerous other companies. But one of the problems I had when I started to work, because I was a little naive, was I found myself surrounded by a lot of young people who graduated from schools like Columbia, MIT, Cornell. And I must confess, I was afraid. But it took about a month or two for me to realize that City is an outstanding school, and that I was as good as they were. And within another few months, I concluded I was better than they were. And following that, I went on to, by my standards, I had a wonderful career with IBM. I worked on very innovative things. I had challenging assignments. Now it wasn't all fun and games, because there are commitments you have to meet, there are dates you have to meet, there are costs you have to meet, there are performance objectives you have to meet in terms of the product that you're making. So don't think that it's just, you know, la la la. And the other thing that I really loved about my job was I had the opportunity to travel, first in the United States, and then it expanded to North America, Canada. And as a matter of fact, I even lived in Canada for 2 years. I lived 40 miles from Montreal. So I know as much about Montreal as I do New York City. And then after that, I started to go to Europe, primarily Germany, and then to Asia in the 90s when things started to boom there. And Singapore was almost like my second home. Spent time in Malaysia. I spent a lot of time in the Hong Kong, South China region, plus a little in Shanghai and Beijing. And I did touch Japan a few times. Now, what made that really significant for me was the fact that I was born in Jamaica. And I was born in Jamaica, and for the first 10 years of my life, I lived in two villages that were, I don't know how to describe them. They were the kind of villages where if a dog walked across the village square, that was big news. And this is back in the late 50s, early 60s. So we're talking about, you know, no electricity, no running water, no newspapers, no nothing. Finally, when I was 10, I went to Kingston, which was a big city. And I hadn't lived with my mom until then. And so I went to Kingston, and that was like heaven, because it was all the things that I wish I could have. And in my teenage years, she said to me, you know, you're going to have an opportunity to get to the US. But I didn't pay too much attention to it. And sure enough, when I was finishing my high school year, she says, you're going to go to the US. And a couple of months before it was time for me to go, she said, now, you're set for 2 months. There's a place for you to live. But after that, you're on your own. And by the way, you got to figure out how to go to college. So I'm not sure what I said to her, but I probably said something like, piece of cake, no problem. And as many of you recognize, when I got here, I found it wasn't a piece of cake. It turns out the job thing wasn't too difficult, because I started working for this company, Virginia Deere, which is a Midwestern. They had a lot of stores in the Midwest, and I worked in their warehouse, which was somewhere in Lower Manhattan. And I probably, you know, ruined every bone in my body and every muscle lifting boxes. But it provided a living. Where the problem came in was, how was I going to go to college? And whether you call it divine intervention, whether you call it manna from heaven, due to some really strange circumstances, I ended up being accepted by City College. And it's an unbelievable story, and I'll tell you that another day. And so I got here, and so now, the only thing I had to do was get through. And that was what made the difference in my life. I went from somebody who was I don't want to say I was, the underclass, but you couldn't go much lower than me. So within 4 years, being phenomenally successful, and I owe it all to the city. And so that's why I contribute to some of the funds I'm asked to contribute to. But mine is in the past. The challenge is really ahead for you young people. And I encourage you to work hard, because you're going to have to work hard. You not only work hard to get through school, but it's going to build a standard for what you're going to do in the future. And the other important thing why I want you to work hard is to work hard for yourselves. Some of you will probably have to work hard for your family, because you'll probably have to support some of them. And the other thing more important, you're going to have to do the same thing I do. There are other students in the future, whether 10 or 20 years from now, that you're going to have to help. So don't be too distracted. Don't surround yourselves with people who are not constructive. Don't spend too much time on the technological gadgets, as most of you probably do. So work hard, and thank you for listening to me.